Dogman, Grime and Punishment is the #1 book of any kind in the United States this week. This is coming from Comics Beat. They have some cool stories from time to time. This graphic novel sold a huge number of copies in its first week, 239,000 copies, and it's at a $12.99 cover price, published by Scholastic. Their comics imprint called Graphics. And this is not the first book that Dav Pilkey has published. Dave is a successful comics creator, and this is some of the interiors of Dogman. This is from Dogman #9. And look, it's very cartoony, but if you look at it closely, it's also iconic, and it's engaging, and it's interesting. You know, you can kind of see any one of these panels. Cut one of these panels out. That could be pop art on somebody's wall. Even his choice of colors, like obviously there's not some phenomenal coloring in here, but it serves the art. It helps tell the story. It's interesting, and any single panel by itself resonates. It's engaging. It is actually interesting. Is this phenomenal work? Well, it's a phenomenal seller, so it's interesting as hell. And actually what I want to do with you is I want to give you a little bit more of his background, what Dave's first book was, and how he's kind of come to become a hit machine. Before we get into it, definitely subscribe to the channel, click the bell for notifications. It's a huge help to me. It's a big support to the channel, so I really appreciate that. So, Dogman, Grime and Punishment. It's a cute title. Obviously, it's a play on crime and punishment. What is it about? I don't know. It's a fun story. They consider Dogman to be a superhero, and it's a huge seller. It's published by Scholastic, yes, and Scholastic has a tremendous domination of the book club market. They do also sell and distribute other books by other publishers who do graphic novels, and they only started their graphic novel division back a few years ago, and now they're 40% of the graphic novel market, bigger than Marvel at around 10% and DC at around 10%. So they have the schools tied up, but they sell a lot of books in a lot of other places, and to get the #1 book, you know, nationally in any category is pretty freaking amazing. And it should also be known that this is part of a series. You know, this is book #9 in the Dogman series. You know, it's not book #1. And when you have book #9 doing well, you're going to have books 1 through 8 doing well as well. So he's going to be selling millions and millions and millions of books to come. Let's take a look at the article. Although books about politics have been storming the bestseller charts for the last few weeks, Dogman, Grime and Punishment, the latest book in Dav Pilkey's Dogman series, was the best-selling book throughout North America, according to publisher Scholastic. It debuted at #1 last week and swept the top spots on USA Today, New York Times, and Wall Street Journal, Publishers Weekly, IndieBound, Toronto Star, and the Globe and Mail bestseller lists. This is for adults and children's bestseller lists. You can see from Publishers Weekly's listings. And I'll give you a link to this article so you can check out more too. That is a hell of a lot of copies. I mean, it just is. You look where it compares, like Melania and Me, and you know, All the Devils Are Here, and you know, other mainstream books. And it's that book from Melania's assistant sold 50,000 copies. Dogman is selling. This is just this one book. If you include it in Dogman 1 through 8, I'm sure it'd be selling, you know, at least twice this number of copies as well. The Canine Crime Buster beat Melania and Me. It beat everything. Pilkey's graphic novel series have become a publishing phenomenon of the highest order. The book had a 5 million copy first printing. Why do they need to print 5 million copies of this book? Couldn't they have just reprinted it several times? They need enough to have for distribution. So they picked 5 million. They know they're going to sell more than 5 million of the book. The last book in this series, Dogman Fetch 22, was the #1 best-selling overall book for 4 straight weeks, following the footsteps of previous 7 books. The series had more than 30 million copies in print worldwide. It's going to obviously have a heck of a lot more than that in 38 languages. Ellie Berger, president of Scholastic's trade division, said, "Since we announced the publication date for Dogman, Grime and Punishment, we've been hearing from enthusiastic kids, parents, educators, and retailers who've been eagerly waiting for its release. We couldn't be more thrilled to see kids and families around the world so excited, laughing, and reading together. We look forward to publishing more Dav Pilkey books in the future. Well, I'm sure you will be. In case you don't have kids, here's a summary of the release. So the Dogman series follows the hilarious adventures of Super Buddies, Dogman, a lovable canine superhero, and his friend's little Petey, a curious kitten who embodies love, optimism, and hope. And ADHD, which is a parody of ADHD, a robot who expresses himself best through his art. With each Dogman book, readers see the growth and development of the main characters, George and Harold, throughout their comics. Their artwork, grammar, as well as their spelling improve as the series progresses. That's an interesting aspect. The series explores universally positive messages, including empathy, kindness, and striving to become a better version of oneself, while it also tackles more complex themes, including loss, forgiveness, and self-acceptance. In Dogman, Grime and Punishment, the book delves into the theme of compassion and how love triumphs over hate. Well, there you go. Pilkey already scored a best-selling franchise with his Captain Underpants book, but he's poised to have another massive hit in a few months when publisher Scholastic launches Cat Kid Comic Club, an all-new graphic novel series by Pilkey. It hits stores in your kids' reading lists December 1st. Good God. Well, very impressive. So this is what it looks like. He's also got more stuff like this. I mean, it is interesting. It is iconic. You know, when you look at books that he's published, he started out with this. You know, does this look interesting? Well, I mean, it looks like it's for kids. It looks nice. Is it iconic? Does it jump out at you? Is it memorable? Are there any characters that you identify? Big dog and little dog? You know, no, it really doesn't. It doesn't look bad. You know, it looks fine, but it's not something that, you know, really strikes you. So his first big hit was Captain Underpants. Well, where the hell did he come up with Captain Underpants? And why Captain Underpants? Well, check this out.
Grade when you first started drawing the Captain Underpants series. Tell us about that time for you.
Oh, yeah, well, second grade was not the best time in the world for me. As you said earlier, I was diagnosed with ADHD. Actually, they didn't have the term ADHD back in those days.
So he was diagnosed with not being able to pay attention. He had attention deficit disorder. Very common now. But look at him. You know, every panel is ADHD. It doesn't necessarily take him off track, but it's this hyperkinetic, high energy, iconic, interesting, engaging, silly, fun, kind of want to make you giggle experience. And then he goes to the next panel, and then he goes to the next panel, and then he goes to the next panel. Obviously, like me, he enjoys 6 panels per page. Seems to work for him. It's made him a multimillionaire. But why Captain Underpants? Where did that come from?
I was diagnosed with something that they called extreme hyperactivity, but I also was diagnosed with dyslexia, and that was really kind of hard for me, being in school and being the only kid who couldn't read. And I was having such a problem with not only reading, but paying attention, behaving. I was always misbehaving in school. And
now, when he says he couldn't read because of his dyslexia, you'll see there's a lot of storytelling, I'm sure, in his panels. I have Captain Underpants, the first couple of books. They're interesting. It inspired me to want to produce books like that. I didn't, but it did inspire me to. What I will tell you is when he talks about not being able to read, this is definitely another element of his storytelling where you can understand what's going on in the story for the most part by watching the action in the panels. It's very personal work to him. But in terms of his approach and what he's trying to express in his work, he's very effective with it. It's very effective. He's not just like banging out, sketches that don't have any meaning. The characters have personality. They have personalities. They're trying to accomplish things, and you can see it in the storytelling. So is it heavily rendered? You know, would I hire him to do a zombie comic? No. not unless we were going to do a silly zombie comic, in the frame of what it was that he was very capable of doing. But watch him talk about Captain Underpants. It's very interesting.
And my teacher didn't have a lot of the resources that teachers have nowadays to deal with kids with my challenges, so my teacher would often just send me out into the hallway. And I had nothing else to do out there, and I kind of wanted to still be connected with my classmates, so I would sit out there and I would draw pictures. And that's where I kind of got the idea for Captain Underpants and for Dogman. Dogman was one of the first characters that I ever made up.
So Dogman's one of the first characters he ever made up when he was a kid, being sent out into the hall for not being able to conduct himself and sit calmly and not be silly and goofy. So he creates Dogman. He creates Captain Underpants as well, so he'll explain in a minute, when he's a kid. And as he also explained, he felt like the only way he could socialize with his friends, the only way he could belong, was to do silly, engaging drawings that were successful with his friends. So there he was, testing how well his work resonated with kids by showing it to his friends, who basically, they really weren't his friends. He was just kids that he was hanging around with, because that's what you do in school. That was his test mark.
And I would make these stories and make comic books about these characters, and that's kind of how I got my start.
And why Captain Underpants? What was it about this character that sparked this creativity in you?
Well, my teacher, one day, I was sitting in class with all of my classmates, and she was talking, and she just happened to say the word underwear. And I don't know why, but we all just burst out laughing, and that was not the response she was going for. She did not want us to be laughing, and she got very angry, and she said, "Hey, underwear is not funny," and we laughed even harder. And she got even angrier. But the thing is, that was a huge moment for me, because I realized, wow, underwear makes people laugh.
Underwear does make people laugh, and it made him a multimillionaire. But it wasn't just underwear that made this guy so successful. The thing that made this guy so successful was having a lot at stake in his creations, focusing on what people's responses were, and then using his work to engage in life. I mean, if he didn't have this outlet of how to draw, he would have just been some wild kid that wouldn't have been able to fit in and function at all. So it's a very interesting story. It's very understandable how he was able to be successful. It obviously wasn't an overnight success either. It's only been, I think, in the last, about, was it 20 years? I can't recall when the first Captain Underpants book came out. Probably in 2005, whatever it is. So, that he's 45 now, approximately. So he would have been about 25 when he started to have some success, maybe 30. And it's a hard road. Creators know it's a hard road as an artist. But look, you really have to apply yourself, focus on what it is that you're doing. Not every book is going to be successful. But one of the things you can learn from Dave is pay attention to how people respond to your ideas and your work. Don't just focus on things that you want to do. Focus on things that you want to do, but for a function. What's the function of your work? You want to engage. You want to be able to do this as a career, maybe. You're creating things that people are interested in and that you like. And he gets an off idea every now and then. After he did Captain Underpants, he did Super Diaper Baby, which is cute, but it's all right. It's funny-ish, but obviously it's going to skew way too young, and it's not going to sell as well. And it didn't. He did Dumb Bunnies, which is a separate property that I liked for another reason. I just thought it was cute. I didn't realize it was him who did this. And it's cute, and it's funny, and it's silly, and it's got a place, and it's also timeless content. It's not going to be out of date 5 or 10 years from now. It's got a good life. It'll probably outlive him, as much of his work will do. But he also did something else which looked very unlike him, this Mighty Robot series. The art was by someone else, and he wanted to do it, and it's kind of like, all right, well, Ricky Ricotta's Mighty Robot, it looks pretty generic. It's not tied to who he is. And Dogman, Captain Underpants. This is stuff that he did probably when he was 6-7 years old, created these characters, and has been drawing them his whole life and investing himself and thinking about these characters his whole life. So, go back to basics, produce stuff that people like, and if you have something that resonates as a creator, great. And if it doesn't resonate, if people just don't respond to it, but they respond to something else that you're doing, focus on what works. It's really that simple. This is an interesting little book, Puppy Action. I just ordered another copy of it. The creator of Puppy Action, if you look at his work, it's cartoony, it's interesting, it's fun, it's funny. The characters are silly. This is pre-Pokemon, obviously pre-Captain Underpants, pre all that stuff. This came out in 1990. It was done by a creator named Michael Perlstein. And he got in touch with me actually as a solicitation. He wanted to work for us at Personality Comics, and they published one issue of Puppy Action. It actually did fairly well at the time. This is back in 1990. And he was looking for a publisher for future issues because North Star stopped publishing. And I was interested. I thought it was pretty cool. The thing was this, is in a comic book store market, you can't really make money with a book like Puppy Action. You just can't. But in a world where you've got something like Dogman, could Puppy Action do well? You know what? It could. It could. It conceivably, it should actually. Would it make millions? Maybe, maybe not. Who knows? But it's a fun-looking book. And there was a lot more Puppy Action that wasn't published. So there are all kinds of creators. There's all kinds of talent. There's all kinds of ways of selling what you're looking to do. But, if you're a cartoonist particularly, or if anyone who's self-publishing, they're creating work that they're going to sell, look at this. I mean, I haven't listened to this whole thing yet, but look up Dav Pilkey. Look up other people who've had success. See what they're saying. Because you'd be surprised. Like, it's not just a 1 in a million chance that it's successful. There are reasons why Dav Pilkey is successful, and there are reasons that you can emulate. Speaking of success, check out my book, collegeofthedead.com. Get to College of the Dead Graduation Day. That's the second book in the series. The third book, College of the Dead Spring Break, we're working on now. And you can pick up a copy of that. It ships immediately. And sign up at epicmermaids.com to get a copy of The Mermaids, which is going to be coming soon. It's a full-color book. We're almost ready to launch it on Indiegogo very soon. And it's like Game of Thrones with mermaids. I think you're really going to like it. All right, I'll see you again soon with another video. Leave me some comments in the comments below what you thought of this video and my kind of approach of explaining the background. See if you like that. Let me know. And again, I will see you again soon. There will always be another video.